Welcome to Aerobiz Supersonic, a business simulation game released for 16-bit consoles, and not only is that peculiar, but even more peculiar, it's actually a competent business simulation and fun to play as a game. Quite the combination that makes it a unique proposition, one that it took me quite a bit to wrap my mind around. But once that is done, well, you figure out it's a pretty good game. You choose to start either a new game or continue a previous one you might have saved. You select one of the 4 available scenarios, and that will change not only the details of each of the airports and cities you can fly to and from, but also the airplanes available and other aspects related to how many people travel, what sort of businesses you can purchase, etc. For demonstration purposes, I'm going to choose a timeline that is closer to us in the present day, even if the timeline closer to the actual development of the game would be Scenario 3, we're going to be playing Scenario 4. And see what people in the 90s thought current day air travel would look like. The age unconventional jet air travel has passed. Now the only way to fly is supersonic! If only that were true, the only way to travel recently has been walking to the shops down the street. But still, one can dream. We're going to select the highest difficulty setting and 1-player mode. You can play up to 4 in hot seat, which is 0 AI and 4 local players, because there is only a total of 4 competing airlines. And then we go on to selecting what region we want to start off our company in. It only seems appropriate that for an Asian game developer, we should start in Southeast Asia. And given the characterization of our advisors and whatnot and soundtrack, we're going to choose Tokyo, Japan, as a main hub. Alright, so our competitors are defined. Air Roma out of Rome, Air Mexico out of Mexico City, and Metlink out of New York. We're going to change our name to, of course, AppleSauce. And we can begin the game. So, the goal is to become a successful airline. That much is obvious. However, the particular objectives will dictate that we have the obligation to, first, not go bankrupt, of course, over the period of the game, 20 years, if you remember, from 2000 to 2020, but also to become the #1 airline in each region of the planet by that date. Which is, quite frankly, easier said than done, because the competition is quite competent, up to a point. And we'll get to that later on. And our advisor is selling is just being promoted to CEO recently. And there you go. He's laying it out for you and explaining that bankruptcy is a constant risk. but he's a go-getter. And here we are, the main interface. On the bottom left side, you can see the world map with the currently selected region. You can navigate by pressing Start and then choosing a different region. You then have a series of menus that range from creating a new line, meaning a new flight with one destination and one origin point. The option to create a hub in a specific region, a hub from which you can then start flights to different cities within that region. Run an ad campaign, check on your current routes, send one of your advisors to negotiate slots in a specific airport, set up a board meeting in which your advisors will advise you on a variety of matters, check the different statistics and information for the current company situation. The most useful will be the airplane list, where you can check on what planes you have in stock and in use in your different routes. For the time being, we only have available airplanes and none in stock being in use in any routes. We don't have any routes yet. So you have to do everything for yourself to begin. The option to purchase new airplanes, and here you will see the different manufacturers, so McDonnell Douglas, Boeing, Airbus, Tupolev, and Ilyushin. Of course, Ilyushin and Tupolev will be more prominent in the earlier scenarios because of the Cold War rivalry, and so the Soviets had quite competitive and I'm just noticing that there's quite a few others that are no longer present, probably because they went bankrupt before 2000 come to mind. As I was saying, so the Soviet Union had airplane manufacturers that were quite prominent in world markets until the fall of the Iron Curtain. You can also check on your general financial policies on repairing your airplane, on advertisements, and on your service levels for airplanes. We'll be keeping them all at maximum whenever possible, because that guarantees the best experience and airplane condition possible. Your game options, as saving, animations, messages, and whatnot, and the option to send one of your advisors to explore business opportunities in a particular city. That is to negotiate the purchase of a hotel or a travel agency somewhere, things like that. And then the button to end your turn. So, to begin, we're going to need some actual flights scheduled. So, the new route will always depart from your hub, in this case Tokyo in Southeast Asia, and then you choose a destination. And there is a price, an upfront price, to set up a route between those two cities. That can vary, so take that into account when choosing a destination. The potential benefits and the cost of just opening it, putting an airplane to run it, one or more, and how many flights and whatnot, so that you can hopefully turn a profit. Tokyo and Osaka is a fairly safe route. Tokyo and Fukuoka, the same. Tokyo and Sapporo, pretty much the same situation. Seoul is also a large city. Guam is a tourist destination for the most part. Let's start with Osaka. We'll start with a small, short-range plane. So McDonnell Douglas 100 with 200 seats. You can see the statistics for fuel consumption and mechanical failure or maintenance cost is quite high, which is good. So higher the number, the more efficient, and the less maintenance the plane requires. You will no doubt come to find out that the larger the airplane is and the more American it is, typically the worse fuel economy and worse mechanical quality the plane is, which is not that far from actual plane quality in real life. Boeing compared to Airbus, yeah. So, let's go with one of our smaller planes. Just one for the time being. We can have 10 slots for one plane going back and forth. And let's pump up the fare to 25% over the normal price. And that will open the route, as signaled by this short animation. And we're back to the region map. So, let's set up a different route, a second route to Sapporo. That is not only a business destination, but also a ski resort. Now, let's use the same type of plane. A one aircraft route, 10 slots as well, 25% markup. I'm pretty confident we can fill our flights at that price. So, the current strategy will be to dominate the main international flight paths, the routes, between main hubs in each continent, and from there try to spread and dominate the regional markets, hopefully squeezing out the competition when and where we can. So, for that we need slots, plenty of slots, lots of slots. And as you can see, in the city screens you have a count of population, a rating for economy and tourism, the higher the better, once again, a tiny little icon that says whether or not the relations between the city's country and other countries in the region is good, bad, and even if you can travel to it, in some situations you just can't, for instance. And then the buildings or facilities you can purchase in that city. In Tokyo's case, we can purchase a museum, an amusement park, a travel agency, commuter lines, bus lines, a hotel, and a catering service, respectively. So, 3 months to negotiate these slots, that's one turn in in-game time. It's 1 turn, 1 quarter. So let's send one of our other advisors to bid for slots elsewhere. Specifically, New York. Let's start off with the maximum we can, which is always 5. We can then expand further once we've got our foot in the door. So, New York starting, we also want to fly to London. Another 6 months, very well. Alright. And finally, let's go to Oceania and also negotiate with Sydney for 5 slots as well. So, in 6 months we'll have slots in international airports, in 3 months we'll have more slots in Tokyo. So, what do we do from here? Well, we check on how many planes we've got for each one of the routes. For New York, I think we're going to need probably these 4 planes, or perhaps MD-12s. So my train of thought is buy more planes to fill those specific lines. we won't need them in 3 months. So for the time being, I will just be purchasing 777s that are quite cheap but carry 360 passengers with a fairly long range. And the salesperson says these economical twin-engine fits right in between the 747 and 767. It tells you can order a maximum of 10, which is basically the maximum you can set up in one single order, but also how many you can purchase with the current balance on your account. So we can do the maximum order several times, but we're only going to start off with 4 for the time being. So the 747 she was mentioning was this one. It is at the time being, for the time being, the larger plane that we could get. And she says this winglet-equipped aircraft is a long-haul jumbo jet. Go for it on your major routes. And in fact, if you're short on slots and need very large planes, this is the choice you should make in terms of airplanes, at least for now. Let's go take a look at the other models available. So the MD-11, which we have 4 of, is slightly smaller capacity than the 747 we just saw. Slightly longer range and much more economical and cost-effective in terms of maintenance. This 3-engine winglet wide body is the successor to the DC-10 and a great bargain, she says. Also much cheaper than the 747 if you noticed. Indeed, very cheap compared to that. And the MD-12 is the largest in the MD series, the perfect plane for economy in the long-haul range. And it's slightly larger than the MD-11, longer range, so it could be a good choice. Could be. At some point, just not for the time being. And the MD-100, the small plane, is the newest in the MD-90 series for a medium-haul flight. It is quite small, but very economical. So in routes where there isn't all that much demand, you can set up a route that is fairly inexpensive to run, but also quite inexpensive to set up. I mean, one of these costs $30 million in the display there, compared to triple that for the larger models. So, but also note that the 777 we got is almost double the price, but carries almost double the passengers. So for the same amount of slots, and slots might be a concern in some locations, and especially in your hubs, you need to optimize the use of slots because they're not infinite. You only have a limited number of slots to ever negotiate. Even if airports do expand, that takes a while. Let's take a look at the Airbus. So Airbus, at the time being, only has one model, the 340, which is a very long-range plane with fairly good capacity and slightly above average fuel efficiency and maintenance cost. Not very expensive. 110 million is not unreasonable, especially when compared to the 747's 135 million cost, so take that into account as well. Although for the high demand, low slot routes, the Boeing will be the better choice. Let's take a look at the Tupolevs. So Tupolev, very short range. The 204, very cheap. Very short range, decent capacity, above average economy. Not bad. This sleek aircraft is equipped with winglets. It's a great buy in a twin-engine aircraft. Not bad, not bad. What did the salesperson say for the Airbus? I forgot. Did we even check? The first Airbus 4-engine wide-body with winglets. Put some on your long-haul flights. Question mark. Not much of a salesperson. isn't even sure we should buy one. Illusion. We have the 96300. A long range, not great capacity, terrible economy, but super cheap. It costs almost a third of what would be invested in a... well, not quite a third. Depending on if you're going for a McDonnell Douglas or the Boeing, a third or half of the price up front, but 50% less capacity than the Boeing, and about on par with the McDonnell Douglas, but with worse fuel economy than the McDonnell Douglas, and shorter range than any of them. So if you're strapped for cash and need to open a long range route, you might get one of these, or a couple, but long term, that fuel economy is going to hurt. So, with our first few routes prepared, our first few aircraft bought for our order, let's end the turn. So we've transported 48,000 passengers. Which is better than any of our competitors, although we did not turn a profit, so probably our prices are slightly off. Let's just take a look at those. More slots in Tokyo, 4 Boeings delivered. Let's check our routes. So Osaka, it is turning a profit, but not good enough. So let's pump that up. Sapporo, also turning a profit, but we can also pump that up. And Osaka. Oh, we only have 2 flights. Silly me, we didn't set up any other routes for the time being. So now that the Boeings were delivered, in fact, I forgot we changed the model for a higher capacity. In fact, you can see almost double. And that, I'm sure, will pump up our profit margin. Thank you very much, advisor. 2 flights upgraded to a larger aircraft. So, we have more slots in Tokyo. What should we do with the advisor? My thinking is start pumping up the numbers of travelers in your airline as soon as you can. So we're going to go to Tokyo, and we're going to buy a travel agency. And that will take a quarter. And next quarter, we will have 3 routes to fill out. So, let's check our airplane stock. We will have 2 777, 1 MD-12, and 4 MD-11. I think we'll need a second MD-12 for the Tokyo to London route, probably, and that should suffice for the New York route. And the 777s to go to Sydney. Just in case, we're going to get an additional 777. And we're going to go to our friends at McDonnell Douglas and get a second MD12. And we should be set. So, on to the next turn. Olympics in Sydney! Well, good thing we just opened up some slots there. Up to 70,000 passengers. Quite good. Well ahead of the competition, but still not great profit. New York and Honolulu, that should be a good one for them. Alright, number 1 in Southeast Asia. And we just bought a travel agency. Great. Good. All around increase in passenger loads. Sydney 5 slots. London 5 slots. And New York 5 slots. New planes are in. I love it that the model of plane actually changes in the animation when you buy different model airplanes. So, we have international slots available, so let's open a new route. Go to the new destinations. 200,000 to Sydney. We will be using this model because it's just within the range for it. So we will not be using the very long-range aircraft. Bump it up to 25%. I think we can get away with that. We are not Ryanair. Not Ryanair, so our flight prices are not low cost. Let's go back to Southeast Asia. You always need to be in the region from which the flight originates. From Tokyo to New York. 240,000. We will be using, I think, the MD-11 for now, at least. And we're going to need 3 planes to fill out the 5 slots. So let's leave it at maybe just 10% over. And do the same for London. So, departing from Tokyo, new route to Europe, London. 250,000. And for this route, we will be using the MD-12. So 1, 2. Alright, and that'll fill out the 5 slots. Let's go for 10% above average just for the time being. We'll check on that and see if it's too low, or we can push it up higher, or maybe too high and have to peg it a bit lower down the price range. Alright, so our money is going down quickly, so we need to start turning a profit sooner or later. But we also need plenty more slots. We always need more slots. So, in North America, there's a few routes that will turn a very good profit. One of them is New York to Los Angeles. So we're going to get started on that. Seeing as our main competitor thus far seems to be Metlink They're doing pretty well for themselves right now, apparently. Let's open a hub in New York. Fairly cheap. Yes, we shall. And I believe just so we get the edge, make sure we dominate the market here. They have bought the Grand Hotel. I think we should also increase our passenger load overall and get a travel agency in New York. Alright, and that'll be done in 3 months. And once we have a hub in New York, we will also be setting up a flight between New York and London, so that our airline can allow passengers to fly around the world in any direction on our company flights. Alright, so I think that's pretty much it for now, for this turn. Let's just check on the airplane stock. If we need to increase, we'll need to purchase another, and the same for New York. Alright, so a bit of margin for New York, not so much for London. And 2 777s, I think, should be enough for the New York-London flight. Alright, that should do it for now. And with international flights, our profit margin should start going up rather quickly. $20,000. They're also going up in numbers. And yes, quite a difference. Alright, so Air Roma is not turning a profit. Good. Air Mexico is barely turning a profit, like 10 million, which is good. Metlink, however, is starting to, well, worry me. They have about a 30 million profit, I think, this quarter. We have, of course, maybe 100, which is much better, but still. We need to start crushing them as soon as we can. Mexico and Sao Paulo and New York, so they're opening up their routes. And London, wow, they're going all out. And Buenos Aires. Yeah, that's going to be a problem for their network. If you expand too quickly, your maintenance staff and whatnot start having problems maintaining the flights. Perfect. Springboard for North America, it will be. And a travel agency, great. So more passengers all around. 14 extra slots. Alright, so let's check on our routes. London to Tokyo, full. Okay, so I think we can pump that to 50 and see what happens. New York to Sydney, also full. And the same for New York. Wow, okay. So we certainly have some margin for growth there. Osaka, 80%, Sapporo, 85%. Okay, we're not going to lower the prices because I think we're going to get a lot of more in terms of international travel with additional routes in other regions. So where do we need slots? We're going to need slots in North America to compete with Metlink. That is apparently our main competitor. So we need a lot more slots in New York, which is also their hub. So we're competing directly for slots with them in New York. And they already have 38 available. So we need to catch up. Okay, so slots in New York. We're going to want a flight between New York and London, so we need extra slots in London. I forgot. I think we should open a hub there before. Yes, please. London hub for Europe. I'm guessing Heathrow. And let's get... Yeah, so slots for LA. That's our first flight. And we need extra slots in London for the New York to London and London to New York flight. And let's get the maximum possible, 14 in 6 months. Alright. So we can set up New York to Los Angeles in 3 months, and then to London in 6. Very well. Alright. We do have the planes in stock for that. We'll use the 777 to New York, London, and maybe you should get more 777s for Los Angeles as well. But that'll be in 3 months, so we can use these two for Los Angeles. Oh, they're getting the big boys. And they also opened a route between New York and London. So I think we're going to slash prices on that one. Rome and Moscow. Alright, so we're carrying more people than all the other competitors combined internationally. Dominating Southeast Asia. We're getting into North America shortly. So now all the competition is turning a profit. MetLink is still growing. Alright. Roman Cairo. I think that worries us too much. They're going for flights between Tokyo and Guam, apparently. Maybe we should open a route there as well. Just to compete with them directly. $5 in Los Angeles, 14 in New York. Alright, so I think that we can open up a route with Guam then to shut down our European competitors. So let's get more slots to then open a route. We should also get more slots in North America all around. So we need more slots in Honolulu because we want to compete with MetLink there. Even if it's not maximizing profits, it'll maximize competition against them. And let's get more slots and other competitive destinations. So, Chicago, 5 million travel agency. Atlanta, which in reality is one of the major hubs in North America, slightly lower population and slightly higher econ and tourism, but no travel agency. Dallas, smaller population, but there's a travel agency. I tend to prioritize travel agency locations because they boost your entire network, not just one location. And Washington as well, I see. Okay. They have a flight to Miami. tourism destination, not very much in terms of population. You can purchase a golf course, a leisure boat, and whatnot. Okay. So green cities are the ones you can establish a hub at, and the others you cannot. Meaning that they're smaller cities for the most part. So I think we're going to focus on LA, Honolulu, Dallas, Chicago, and maybe Washington. So for the time being, let's get a flight to Chicago. So get some slots there. Yes, 6 months, that's fine. We're in it to win long term. Alright, and we can set up a route from New York to LA. 120 million. Going to use I think the 777s. So 5 slots. Going to go 25 below to compete with Metlink. We should steal some of their fares like that. Should. We should. Normally we should. Hopefully we are. So, next up, I think we will need more slots in New York as well. So our advisors are doing what? London. Alright, so after London, we can negotiate more slots in New York. Perfect. And do we have airplanes to go to London? Actually, no. We need an extra 777. But try to not overbuy, because sometimes manufacturers have discounts for a quarter or two. So you want to have some cash on hand for that sort of thing. But also if for some reason you need to set up a new route somewhere that might be more expensive or something like that, always try to keep some money in reserve. Alright, and they're going for Seoul. Interesting. Alright, we're still dominating the international lines. Aroma is growing quickly. But so are we in North America. I think we just stole passengers from Metlink. Their passenger total seems to have not grown, which is good. And our profits have grown. Okay, also good. Need to keep that ball rolling. New York and London, lots of competition there. Yeah, North America seems to be the battleground for competitiveness. This game, New York and LA. Okay, so they will be competing directly with us, as expected. Let's check in on our flight routes. One 777. Okay, so not so good now that there's competition. So let's get the price down. Sydney almost full, but I'm guessing the Olympics finished. New York still full. Okay, so maybe we should get an extra plane in. Osaka. Not full. Okay, so let's get the price a bit lowered so we get more passengers into Tokyo in connecting flights. Sapporo and Osaka. Okay. Soon we'll set up a route for tourists to go to Guam And maybe we should think about a route to Seoul that will be a hub for one of our competitors. So you can siphon their passengers directly from there. So we need more slots in New York for our upcoming flights to Chicago and Honolulu. Three months, perfect. And let's set up our flight between New York and London at 50% discount so we can destroy or attempt to destroy the competition. So, the ideal flight should be this, I think. 5 flights, 50% off. So, how many planes do we have in reserve? Only MD-100s. MD-100s are not the best for high-capacity routes, so we're going to buy a few 777s. For our North American routes. Alright, and money is still going down to 600 million on hand. Alright, we have no flights to Kingston, but thank you for the information. Our numbers are going up again. Not much in North America. Alright, and our profits are also up. Metlink, I think, also went up in profits. Okay. But still, we're going faster than almost all our competition combined, so that's a good sign. Tokyo and Bangkok. We have no flight to Bangkok, so that's a exclusive route for them. An exclusive route. So 14 slots in London, New York should be enough for our Chicago and Honolulu flights. Alright, so we're going to need more slots, as always. More slots in New York. Perfect. We're going to need more slots in Honolulu. Honolulu needs more slots. Six months, a bit long, but we want to corner the market in North America and stifle Metlink as soon as we can. But also LA, we're already full on slots. I think 10 should be enough for a maximum of 15 slots. And last but not least, I think we should also set up a route to Washington, D.C., probably a short route. Or maybe Dallas, that is the larger population center. Maybe long term that'll be better. Let's do that. Also 6 months. Okay. So, Dallas, Los Angeles, New York, Honolulu, all out to expand in North America. So, let's check our routes. London to New York, not even half full. even with a discount. But there are 3 competing airlines here, so I guess that's good enough. Tokyo is full. I think we need another airplane. LA, also full. Yeah, good thing we're getting more slots. In the meantime, let's just not cut the prices as much. See if we can get full flights that way still. Okay. And a new route to Chicago. One airplane, 10, 25% off. Let's see if we can get it full. The more passengers go to New York, the more passengers will be flying internationally from there. And also a new route to Honolulu to compete directly with MetLife. So we can also squeeze in 777s, great. 2 to fill out the 5 slots. Let's give it a 25% discount, see if we can cut their profits that way. Alright. And already running out of slots in New York. So, we need more MD-11s, correct? Correct. Or maybe just replace the MD-11s with 747s. And save the MD-11s for a less intensive route than Tokyo, New York. We've got 4 MD-11s. The MD-11 has 360 in capacity. What's the range on the route? 6,750. Okay, so the Boeing can do it. But then we'd be stockpiling 4 really large airplanes early on. I think we can get away with it. Let's just get an extra MD-11 for the time being. And we'll upgrade later if and when we need, if we run out of slots. For the time being, we still have a margin in terms of slots, so let's not spend too much unnecessarily. Alright, so next quarter. Still expanding all over the place, but they ran out of money. Yeah, ran out of money, only 80 million in the bank. Air Mexico, only 90. They're really low on cash, all of them. They're still kicking their ass in international flights. I mean, interregional flights. Most of the flights we have are international. And Aeroma has started to fly within Asia. And wow, MetLink has really grown, but so have we in North America. And their profits are going down slightly. So we're making a dent, and our profits are still going up. We're on the right track. On the right track, guys. On the right track to victory. So more slots in New York. Great. One MD-11 with the winglets. Let's check the routes. Tokyo, London, 80%. So maybe just for an average fare there. Sydney is, once again full. Okay. Try to maximize profit. Okay, let's get one more plane in then. Only one extra flight. I was expecting more from one extra plane. Okay, well. But that's our big money maker right now. 80 million per quarter. Osaka, almost full. Sapporo, almost full. So let's not meddle with those. Let's check our North American routes. London to New York, not very popular with all the competition. Chicago, almost full, but not quite, so let's drop that a bit further. Still. LA, not full, so let's drop that to minus 25 now. Seems that they've upped the competition. And Honolulu is full. Okay, so we do need those extra slots to get some extra planes in and steal those juicy passengers. Okay. So we're going to need more slots in New York, fellas. More slots in New York. I also like how each region has their own music. You're doing the salsa. Or elevator music in Europe. I don't know what that tells us. What Japanese think about Europeans. And Tahitian type music. A bit cliche, but serviceable. A bit cliche, but completely serviceable. So, we're going to need more airplanes. I think 777. A couple should be enough. Always keep a few airplanes in stock, just in case. You need to adjust a route or two. And finish the quarter. London and New Delhi. They also have a hub in London. Rome and Tehran. Not very worried. Sydney. Now that I don't like. Air Mexico is running a deficit, flying from New York to London. Good to know. Alright, their numbers are also growing. That's not good. Still leading in Southeast Asia. Well, not really catching up in North America. At least not for now. But our profits are growing. Metlink also slightly grew, I think. Okay, well, could be better. I think we need to expand our operations in Europe next. Dallas, LA, Honolulu, and of course New York. Massive expansion plan for the North American airspace. Let's go and check those out. So, London to New York, growing. Tokyo to New York, actually no longer full. Okay. Chicago, no, not full either. LA, not full. Honolulu, let's get an extra plane on that. Okay, and let's open new route to Dallas. Let's use one of the Boeings and build those at minus 25. We want those people flying. So maybe we could adjust the price on the Chicago and Honolulu flights. Just maximize how many people we're siphoning from and LA flights from Medlink. I think that should do it. Okay, to maximize slots, I think we should go to Europe and start negotiating with the favorite locations there. So, to begin with, let's go straight for the belly of the beast, their hub, Rome. Let's get 14 slots there, 9 months. That's gonna take a while, that's okay. Let's go for... Does Paris have a travel agency? Does not. Does Madrid have travel agency? It does. Considerably smaller as a destination, but that's okay. Travel agencies are good. So Madrid it is, and maybe a third destination. A tourism destination. Let's see, Barcelona. That's okay, but not excellent. Nice, the Côte d'Azur. That's good. A good tourist destination, but not many people live there. Milan, more business than tourism. Zurich for the skiing, surely. A bit. Maybe more if you got the actual ski resort there. Not convinced. Munich? Maybe also skiing? No, not really. Or perhaps one of the Benelux. Amsterdam? Not so much. Maybe Athens then. Oh yeah, okay. So hotels, 9 million potential. That's it. That's our second choice. Alright. And that should do it for our initial expansion in Europe. Let's also bid for slots in London, so we can feed these local flights. An extra 14 slots. Lots of competition for slots in London. I think we should maximize the slots there as soon as we can as well. So, 6 months, 6 months. Perfect. And that will be it, my friends, for this episode of Aerobiz Supersonic. Let's save the game. And until next time, this is AppleSauce.